Yes, it's Locked On Phillies, and the Phils hit their halfway point tonight. We'll talk about the first half, what they can do in the second half to be even better, and preview their series with the Nationals on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phils baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, and I'm happy to be with you here as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. So it's where the game starts. And today's episode is a fun one. The Phillies, tonight when they play the Washington Nationals, will hit the halfway point of the Major League Baseball season. It will be their 81st game of 162. I'm no math whiz, but I believe that is half. So it's time to first, before we preview that series, which we will coming up, we'll have off the poll later as well. Fun poll question asking you about the second half of the season. But before we get into all that, let's review where the Phillies are and how they got here. Your Philadelphia Phillies currently sit with a record of 42-38. They're third place in the NL East. They're 4 games over 500. They're only 1 game back of a playoff spot, that playoff spot being the third and final wild card spot in the National League. If I just told you, if we just popped right on, you missed the entire first part of the season, the whole first half, and I said, well, the Philadelphia Phillies are a game out of a playoff spot. They're 42-38. They're on pace to win 84, 85, maybe even 86 games, like right around in that area. What would you say? Because I think most people probably would have signed up for that when the season started. Maybe not the end result, but where they are right now, especially knowing the second half of the schedule is easier than the stretch that they just went through to get to this point. So, in a nutshell, maybe as expected. But then you look at some of the big storylines of the year. First off, the abysmal start. The team looking like they had no chance to compete whatsoever. Nick Castellanos underperforming. JT Realmuto underperforming. Kyle Schwarber underperforming. Bryce Harper still doing his thing. Rhys Hoskins having a hot stretch here there, largely not doing much. A shuffle in the outfield. And then, Joe Girardi gets fired just early into the season. If I tell you all that, it's like, man, disaster. Joe Girardi getting fired, we knew it was a possibility because the team did not offer him an extension prior to the season when they had the chance to. Kind of felt like he was a lame duck coach heading into this, and if he struggled, he would be gone. Well, they struggled mightily, and Joe Girardi's out. So you think, okay, well, the season might be in trouble. We'll see what this Rob Thompson guy has, who I have no idea anything about, just know he's a baseball lifer, a lot of time up in New York with the Yankees under Joe Girardi and a couple years here already. And then all of a sudden, the switch gets flipped, and the Phils go on a huge winning streak. They stay hot. The month of June's incredible. They're 20-9 in their last 29 games leading up to this point. Oh, and during all of that, well, Bryce Harper, who was already dealing with a partial tear of his UCL that kept him out of the field, broke his finger and is out for a long period of time. Months, possibly. Looking at about 6 to 8 weeks probably for the recovery time. By the way, your second best hitter probably, overall hitter, Gene Segura. He's out as well, broken finger on a hit by pitch too. And you've got injury issues. Man, okay, well, now that changes everything because you're not approaching the second half with Bryce Harper fully healthy, or maybe at all, depending on when he comes back. And then you look at Kyle Schwarber, who just won National League Player of the Month honors last month, just randomly heated up in June. And it gives you hope for guys like Nick Castellanos and JT Realmuto who are struggling right now that maybe they could just turn the corner and get really hot. And maybe July is their month. Maybe August is their month. Who knows? And a late stretch could happen. even recently, well, now we've seen some pitching issues pop up with Zach Eflin on the injured list, the 15-day injured list. Ranger Suarez just went on the injured list as well. Now you have issues with starting pitching depth. Christopher Sanchez scheduled to start tonight. We'll talk more about that in the next segment. Bailey Falter scheduled to start on Wednesday. And it's like, yeah, we got to this point, but this path that the Philadelphia Phillies took to being 42-38, heading into the halfway game, is not the path that anyone would have predicted. But hey, that's baseball. It's hard to predict if things go perfectly. Outside of maybe the Yankees and just the Yankees, the season has not gone as projected for teams. Even the Mets were really good. The Mets were supposed to have DeGrom and Scherzer at the top of that pitching rotation. Those guys have been hurt for a while. So baseball is variable. We know this. Over 162 games, anything can and will happen. Some unique things happen. Just look at this past series with the St. Louis Cardinals. You gave up a cycle to Nolan Arenado in the first game. You gave up back-to-back home runs in game 2. 4 in a row? Are you kidding me? Like, that stuff doesn't happen, and yet they happen on back-to-back nights. Baseball is a weird sport, and the Philadelphia Phillies have had one of the weirder seasons. I actually had someone ask me, because I was out at a barbecue this weekend for the 4th of July. Happy 4th, by the way, to everybody out there. Haven't had a chance to tell you all that, but I was out on a barbecue. Someone asked me what it was like covering the Phillies like this, talking about them day in and day out, and just covering Philly sports in general on the radio. I was like, I'll tell you what, there might be bad teams, there might be good teams, but it's very rare in Philadelphia that you have a boring team, a team without storylines. And this Philadelphia Phillies season has certainly not been boring. We have a major injury to a star, recovery, another major injury to the same star, a manager fired, another major injury to a starter, call-ups, call-downs, a center field spot that we can't figure out, a bullpen that looked terrible and then all of a sudden had one of the best stretches in the past decade's worth of baseball. Starting rotation with 2 guys who could be all-stars and close to the Cy Young conversation when everything's all said and done, and then the back end is falling apart now. You have 2 stars who you paid a significant amount of money who are doing nothing, and another star who went from looking like he was lost to having one of the best months in the history of baseball. Like, the Phillies are such a weird team this year, and yet they're in a great spot with a very favorable schedule the rest of the way and a second half to look forward to. They have one of the top 5 easiest schedules in baseball over the rest of their games. We're only halfway, and they're already 4 games over 500 with that murderer's row schedule. They played a bunch against the Mets, a couple series against the Dodgers, the Padres. Well, now you're seeing teams like the Cubs, who stink, the Pirates, who stink, the Nationals tonight. The Nationals absolutely stink. Their schedule gets easier and easier as they progress deeper into this thing. So does it look like they can make a run in the second half? You're absolutely right, it does. It wasn't pretty to get to this point. They're not in a great spot at this point due to injuries and everything going on there, but the schedule plays in their favor. They treaded water through the hardest parts of their schedule so far. And hey, teams that make the playoffs and make noise are not teams that get hot in July. They're not even teams that get hot in August. They're teams that are hot end of August into September, great last month, make a playoff push, going with momentum. That could very well be your Philadelphia Phillies. And the first half, while not perfect, far from it, they've put themselves in great position to do just that. So that is my halfway point evaluation of the Philadelphia Phillies season. But hey, there's no rest for the halfway point. We'll get a little bit of a rest with the All-Star break coming up. But hey, back in action tonight against the Washington Nationals at Citizens Bank Park. Christopher Sanchez making a spot start for the team. A lot to break down as we look forward to what should be a fortunate series. It should go in the Phillies' favor against the Nationals, but I don't want to give too much away. I'll tell you all about that next on Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at Built Bar. They've got some great stuff over there. I tell you about new flavors all the time. Well, they invented the healthy and tasty protein bars, and you've got to try their new flavor, Coconut Brownie Chunk. It's amazing. Do you like the taste of brownies? Do you like the taste of maybe like the deliciously chewy, marshmallowy coconut? Like all of that mixed into one, and it's actually good for you. It sounds too good to be true, but stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. They're low calorie, they're low sugar, they're high protein. It's all delicious, but they're only here for a limited time. So you got to go to built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. They're going to go fast. Listen, all Built bars are made with collagen protein, which means it absorbs more efficiently and gets you in better shape than the regular protein bars that are hard for your body to absorb. Best part is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they're so good for you. It's awesome, and it's great for a quick, healthy snack while you're running around this summer. So the delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow, all of it together. So stop fantasizing. Get to built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you can get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay, it's time to preview the Philadelphia Phillies upcoming series, the Nationals. The last time the Phillies saw the Nationals, it was a 5-game series with that Friday doubleheader down in our nation's capital, and the Phillies ended up taking 4 of those 5 games. Now, it was a fight for some of them, a couple extra inning wins for the Phils, but hey, they battled, they found a way to win under some interesting circumstances down there with some weird games going on and stuff like that, and they pulled it out. Now they get the Washington Nationals for 3 at home, and it doesn't look like it's going to be any easier this time. Not that it was all that difficult last time. Getting 4 wins out of 5 games normally means you're a good bit better than this team. But 2 of the starters in this series are question marks for the Philadelphia Phillies. Christopher Sanchez goes tonight for the Phillies, facing off against Paolo Espino. Let me tell you first about Christopher Sanchez because we haven't seen him in a minute. He's had some appearances at the major league level, but 6 games played, only 1 game started, a 4.6 ERA with 15 Ks. Nothing really all that special there. Does not have a recorded record. And frankly, he's a guy that is going to have to throw some innings for them while Ranger Suarez and Zach Eflin continue to be on the injured list. Now, we've seen that Christopher Sanchez can pitch at the major league level, but he's not an ideal starter. He's not the guy that you want to go into a NL East divisional series having him start game 1 for you. This is an emergency start, and with emergency pitchers, you get what you get. It may be a great outing for him, and you're just going to have to live with that. So a lot of it falls on the offense tonight for the Phillies to pull out this game at Citizens Bank Park. He's facing veteran Paolo Espino, 35 years of age, who has a 2.8 ERA so far this year, 34 Ks. Now, Paolo Espino has only started 4 games so far this season for the Washington Nationals. He's not their regular starter. He's got to jump in and make starts because they have a lot of stuff going on with their starting rotation as well. But Espino is a guy who's been in the majors for a while. He's having a better season than the small sample size we have for Christopher Sanchez. I got to give the edge in this one to the Washington Nationals as far as the pitching matchup's concerned. But with the offenses accounted for, the Phillies should be able to still pull that one out. Let's just take a look because it's the night's game. The ESPN analytics will be up, and the Phillies have a 57.2% chance to win. Of course, that leaves the Nationals 42.8% of a chance to pull this out based on ESPN's analytics. That's just what we're seeing there. Now, game 2 is an easy pick. Aaron Nola faces off against Josiah Gray. And Nola's been incredible this year, just back to his great form that we saw in 2018, and we thought we were going to get from him every year from that point forward. Struggled in 2020 and 2021, but he's finally looks like he's made the resurgence. Now, Josiah Gray is 4-0 in away games. He's been really good on the road for the Washington Nationals, but he's only 6-5 record-wise, a 4.22 ERA, 88 strikeouts, and 1.27 WHIP. That's a average pitcher in Major League Baseball these days, maybe slightly below. No, he's just about average. Aaron Nola has not been average. I give the advantage in that one to the Philadelphia Phillies, and hopefully they can take care of business in Game 2 is what I was trying to say there. Now, Game 3 is interesting again. So Game 1, spot start by Christopher Sanchez. Paolo Espino, more of a relief pitcher at this point in his career. Weird matchup. Game 2, 2 starters, Nola, Josiah Gray. Nola clearly better, advantage Phillies. Game 3, no listed starters on the ESPN website because, like I said, Washington dealing with a lot of issues there in their starting rotation. And the Phillies have 2 pitchers on the injured list. So Bailey Falter is the expected starter, everything I'm hearing, for the Philadelphia Phillies on Thursday at 4:05 in the afternoon. So it looks like we're going to get Falter, who has 3 wins on the year. Or maybe did he get a win in his last game? They won the last game he pitched. I don't know if he was credited with the win, but I'm higher on Bailey Falter than most. He has, when he's been required to step in, done a solid job being a spot starter for this team. Nice lefty arm, got some good strikeout stuff. I trust him more than I trust Christopher Sanchez, and I don't know through who Washington's going to be throwing. Hopefully, that'll be a game going for the sweep after the Phillies take the first 2 of this series. But if it comes down to it, I don't hate having Bailey Falter on the mound against a spot start from the Nationals, knowing how, I don't want to say untalented because they're Major League Baseball players, but knowing the lack of comparable talent there is on the Washington Nationals roster. The Phillies are a significantly better roster, so if we're going to throw someone out there to have a spot start, and they're going to throw someone out there to have a spot start, I'll take our guy every time. That's just where I stand, and hey, hopefully I'm not proven wrong, but maybe I will be. It looks like the Phillies will have the advantage in 2 of the 3 pitching matchups, though, in this series, and they'll have the offensive advantage in all 3 of them. Kyle Schwarber still incredibly hot. Rhys Hoskins heating up. Nick Castellanos showing signs of breaking out. And JT Realmuto still a chance to be dangerous at points. Maybe he'll break through starting this series. Maybe the easier opponents will do something for him to help him out. But we will see. All that I know is tonight, and don't forget Derek Hall, of course, who's going to be in designated hitter spot tonight in batting cleanup. Derek Hall with 3 home runs in his first 2 games up in the major leagues. And we'll see if the power continues tonight against Paolo Espino. So no reason the Phillies shouldn't win 2 of 3, and a really good chance that the Phillies sweep. This is what you're going to hear a lot of the rest of the way with series that look like they fall directly into the Phillies' favor. We'll see that tonight. Coming up next, before we wrap up this episode, though, got off the poll, and I want to ask you about a poll question about the second half of the Major League Baseball season for your Philadelphia Phillies and how it compares to the first half that they just went through. That coming up next as we conclude today's Locked On Phillies. All right, let me tell you about our title sponsor. Tell you a little bit more about Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. You can find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news. Major League Baseball is going strong. We're about to hit the second half. So if you're looking at over-unders, team playoff odds, team divisional winning odds, and hey, even World Series odds for some of these teams, go ahead and check out Bet Online if you have a bit of an inkling of who's going to be in the dance and who's got a chance to compete when they get there. Bet Online is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and a lot of stuff going on in the golf world right now. Chance to make some money there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, it's time for Off the Poll. If you're not familiar with our Off the Poll segment, what it is I ask you a poll question. Get it? Off the poll, like the foul poll, but poll question, P-O-L-L. And we post it on Twitter. It'll be retweeted from my account at ConnorThomas975, which you can see there on YouTube. And it'll be mainly posted on our Locked On Phillies Twitter account at LO_Phillies. If you're not following us on Twitter, make sure you do so. We post a lot of great content on there to keep up with everything that we put out through the podcast and through the YouTube videos. Now, Off the Poll is a 2-part segment. I'll ask you the question today, and then on tomorrow's episode, I'm going to respond to the answer. So I'm going to see, oh, you picked this. This was the top vote getter. Here's how I feel about it. Maybe I agree. Maybe I disagree. And I'll give you my thoughts on everything in the second part of this segment tomorrow. But of course, I got to pose the question first before I know how to respond to your answer. And it's an interesting one. My question to you looks at the second half of this season. The Phillies have had a tumultuous first half to the 2022 season. I listed it out for you in the first segment, but in case you forgot, changing a manager, 2 injuries to Bryce Harper. Big injury to Gene Segura. Bullpen stinks and they don't stink. A player of the month stunk earlier. A highly paid player who's done nothing. 2 highly paid players who have done nothing. A great top end of the pitching rotation. The back end now in shambles with injuries. A closer role. I didn't even mention this earlier. A closer role that's been handed to everybody and no one can seem to figure out how to do it well. Maybe they found something in Brad Hand. It's been all over the place. But they're 42-38. They're 4 games over 500 right now. We'll see how they do tonight and how that ends up. But it's a simple question. Given where the Philadelphia Phillies are injury-wise, strength of schedule-wise, all of that. So I'll just say, given where the Philadelphia Phillies are right now in the landscape of Major League Baseball, do you expect them to have a better, worse, or equivalent second half to what they did when compared to what they did in the first half? So basically, is their second half going to be better, worse, or the same as the first half we just saw the Philadelphia Phillies put together? I'm very interested to see. I imagine there's going to be optimism, but I don't know. You don't know where I'm going to go because I'm not going to tell you till tomorrow's episode. I don't want to influence those responses, but I will tweet that out from @LO_Phillies. I'll retweet it from @ConnorThomas975. I'd love to get your responses on that. So check all of that out and place your votes so we can respond to it tomorrow. That's all the time I have for you for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you, as always, for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Lindsey Crosby is awesome. The MLB draft is coming up. It's quickly approaching. And you need all the latest news from the expert, and that is Lindsey Crosby. Check it out. He knows prospects, college, high school, minor leagues, to know what you guys don't need because maybe your team has it in the minor league system already. It's important for the Phillies to keep an eye on this as they continue to build up their minor league system. So check out Locked On MLB Prospects. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. And please continue to rate, review, subscribe. Everything we do here on Locked On Phillies. Throw us a like where you watch your favorite or listen to your favorite podcast. Throw us a subscription when you hop on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything. It's all free. It all helps make us a better product here at Locked On Phillies. So please continue to do that. And if you already have, sincerely appreciate it. That's all my time for today. And hopefully the Phils get a win tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow on Locked On Phillies.